All right, Happy New Year. Here we go. It is a brand new edition of the NFL Explained podcast. Mike Yam, as always, joined by my Super Bowl champ, Michael Robinson. Are you a big New Year's resolution guy?
No, I'm not, Yams, because oftentimes we don't get our resolutions, and I have a theory behind it, but that might be a whole nother podcast. You know, this is the Gregorian New Year, okay? This isn't the earthly New Year. The earthly New Year is in March during the equinox.
Are you just making up stuff? I've never even heard of this
No, it's
deal.
not. It's not. It's literally for real. The new year for the earth starts during the equinox when life springs back up into existence. You know, when the vegetables grow. Come on, Yam.
I thought the vegetables were always growing. I am not the person to dive into this topic with you. Here it was. And look, we got a lot of actual football stuff to discuss. In fact, it is the art of the punt return. I don't think special teamers get nearly enough love.
No, we don't. And I'm going to say we, because that was my job for almost 9 years in the National Football.
You know what I'm saying, right? Like it can make or break a game. And when it goes well, it can go great. And if it doesn't go well, it's like a situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Usually, you know, when you look at highlights, when you're a special teamer or core special teamer, as I was with the San Francisco 49ers and the Seattle Seahawks, oftentimes our plays don't get on the highlight packages of these, you know, shows, right? Unless it's something really, really bad or really, really good. If you're just doing your job normal, you don't get any recognition.
There are certain players that keep you watching, no matter what, you know, if it's an offensive player, if it's a defensive player. Very rarely are there the special performers, the return guys, where you go, you know what? This dude might be able to take it to the house. I am going to wait to go and use the restroom because I want to see this guy and see what he can do. Devon Hester, for me, is one of those players. I think we should start with a little bit of the history around the punt return. This is actually something that's been a part of the game. The first punt returned for a touchdown, week 2 of the 1920 season. 1920. Yes.
That was the first punt return?
Yes. It was when Frank Bacon recorded the first punt return for a touchdown. His 60-yarder that helped the Dayton Triangles beat the Columbus Panhandles 14-0. You heard me right. The
Dayton Triangles.
Yeah. By the way, if you're into team names, I'm just saying, if you want to go back to last season's NFL Explained podcast, you will be able to go through the history of a lot of the names for NFL teams. I don't really remember the Columbus Panhandles, but nonetheless, there were 5 punt returns in the first ever season in 1920. More than 100 years later, there have only been 3 punt return touchdowns in 2022 so far. So explain to me, M-Rob, why are there fewer punt returns that you think we're seeing in the game?
Well, first and foremost, the development of offenses and, you know, the game and these quarterbacks just moving the ball up and down the field, the opportunity for punt returns and punt and things like that are just getting less, because the offense and defensive groups are taking up some of the plays a little bit more. But I think it's because when you look at the punt return play in particular, because that's what we're talking about, it encompasses both offensive philosophy and defensive philosophy, right? When you're on punt return, when you're rushing the punter to try to block the punt, that's more of a defensive thing, right? You're rushing. Right, you're rushing. You're trying to take the ball away from the opposing offense, because when they're punting, they still have the ball. They still have possession. It's still their ball. So you're still trying to create good opportunities for your team. And then when the ball is kicked, that gets transitioned, and now you're playing offense. Again, punt and punt return are the only 2 facets of the game that are like this, where one part of it is offense, the next part of it is defense. And so punt return, now I got to worry about holding. Now I got to worry about my relation to the punt returner, the guy with the football. I have to worry about all the offensive principles to make the play a positive thing. So, I think that's why it's so hard to get a punt return, is because it just encompasses so many different aspects of our game.
You kind of touched on it a little bit, but let's go a little bit more in depth on some of the philosophies around how you execute successfully a punt return for a touchdown. Take me through schematically what is actually happening on the field.
It's crazy, Yams. I've been the returner.
Yeah.
Like, I've actually had the opportunity to have to catch the football, hear my spotter from the sideline telling me where everybody is, catching it, have to figure out where I am in relation to what the return is. I've been a guy blocking for the returner. I've been a guy rushing the returner. I've done it all from the punt return standpoint. So it's a little bit of a just a unique position. But yes, We have plays. A lot of times there's sideline returns, or middle returns, or alley returns. And when I say alley, that means there's a part. Yeah, I'm going to the right. There's a right return for the returner, but from a blocking unit, part of that blocking unit will be blocking guys out, and part of the blocking unit will be trying to seal guys. So you're trying to get like an alley down the numbers part of the football field. Those are really, from a schematic standpoint, the real plays of punt return. Sure. A returner can't make 11 guys miss at one time.
Sure.
But he can make one guy miss 11 times. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. So you want to get you want to get guys on different levels so that if your returner is encountering a free guy, he's one-on-one with that guy, and then he has enough space to be one-on-one with the next person.
Take me through what you're actually thinking about in those moments.
Well, it depends, right? It depends on your opponent and who you're playing. If you're playing a punt team, I'm just going to throw a name out there like the Rams, sure. Sean McVay. They'll fake a punt on you. They'll throw a pass or whatever. So whenever you get around the 40 or between both 40s and the 50-yard line, because if you were to fake it there, the opposing team still has a little bit of a ways to go to get a touchdown, and you're dealing with a team that will fake the football, maybe then you're in a punt safe. So sure. You do have kind of a return on. Maybe you keep your defense out there just to talk a punt team out from faking it. And what you'll do is you'll rush 2 or 3 guys and then just have those guys drop back to have a certain return. That is kind of like a punt safe deal. You maybe have somebody backed up. You may have a rush. Right? And every single rush has a sideline return with it, right? So you may have all 8 guys up at the line of scrimmage. You may have them all rush the punter. Hey, you guys miss. After you guys miss, we're going to all turn around, and now this turns into a right return for the punt return. So again, for all of our listeners and viewers out there, the punt team isn't just going out there and saying, okay, we just go catch the football and see what happens. No, there is a method to the madness. There is a direction you're trying to kind of move the punt team bodies into so that you can have a return and end the play on a positive note.
How hard is it to locate the football once it leaves the punter's foot?
Very, man, I can't lie, especially as a returner.
Yeah.
And really, the destroyers, the guys who are, so again, you have a punt team, you have a punt return team. The gunners are the guys on the punt team that right at the snap of the ball, they're on the outside. They get to go to the returner. They get to go to the ball. The destroyers usually are in a vice grip or have 2 guys out there to stop those guys from getting the free runs on the returner. And to me, they have one of the hardest jobs. They don't know where the ball is. They're fighting a guy. They're trying to block a guy running all the way downfield, and their back is to the ball and the returner. And I can't tell you, Yams, how many times where a returner is yelling, Peter, Peter, which means basically get away, or Oski, or whatever the code word may be for that punt return team. And the destroyer just doesn't hear him because he's engaged in a fight with the gunner on that side, and then the ball lands and hits the gunner, and then it's a free ball after that. So it's a lot of different dynamics that goes on with the punt return team, and you got to communicate. And oftentimes, from a punt return standpoint, at that juncture of the game, there's a little noise happening in the game because the other team is punting. If you're at home, your crowd is excited. So it's just a lot of different factors that go on to the punt return. Oh yeah, on top of, it's not like these are starters. And I was a core special teamer. If you're a backup in the National Football League, you play special teams. No doubt. There is no qualms about it. There's only 46 of us that are live on game day, so you got to do it.
All right. Outside of the safe moments where it's just like, hey, just make sure you catch it clean. At what point is it all feel?
There is a spatial awareness. I hope I said that word right. But there is a feel to it. And yes, oftentimes you have the loudest coach on your coaching staff on the sideline screaming, "You good?" That was what they said to me. "Mike, you're good. You're good." Or no. You hear the word no, you start crossing your hands, you start saying no, get away, get away, get away, and start yelling whatever your code word is for guys to kind of get away. But yeah, there always is a plan. There is a feel aspect to it. And there's also game planning. So let's say, like, for instance, when we would play against, I'm just going to throw out the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? They always had a bunch of linebackers on their roster because they were a 3-4 team.
Sure.
So you knew teams that were 3-4 that have a lot of linebackers.
I don't want that dude. I don't want that guy.
Well, you know that their special teamers are going to be a lot of linebackers.
Exactly.
Okay?
I don't want any of that.
You don't want to get hit by him, right?
Hell no.
But if there's a lot of linebackers on your punt team, right? Maybe not the fastest guys, maybe not the most guys with the most agility, then yeah, as a returner, as a punt return team, we're going to have a lot more sideline returns, especially if I got a guy like a Percy Harvin or Allen Rossum, who I played with in San Francisco, or Leon Washington we had in Seattle before we had Percy Harvin. We got speed guys like that, and we're playing against a bunch of linebackers. Everything is a sideline return, Rams. Everything. And I was that guy I was always the personal protector on punt and on punt return. Basically the guy that would, call out the return. I would get the call from the special teams coordinator. I would also be the guy to identify what's happening. This wing is on the ball. That guy's off the ball. Alert, alert, alert to safe. Something's up. This ain't normal, right? I was that guy. Or when the ball's kicked, I'll be the one drop back and be the personal protector for the returner. So just being able to identify the different things that the punt team is trying to do to you, and ultimately your goal is to give the ball to your offense. Yams, I'm going to repeat that again. Yeah. The ultimate goal is to give the ball to your offense, and if you can make a quick 10 yards off the return too, that's also a goal.
Just one other thing on this. You had said it's hard to locate the football. And by the way, very rarely on this show do I feel like I have real world experience. This one, I actually do. Years ago, I had to try to catch a football out of a jugs machine up in the air. I was 0 for 3. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't get over how much spin there was on the ball. And not only was it harder to track, but when it was coming down, I couldn't get over how fast it was dropping. How difficult is it to actually catch the football in those situations? Because it's very different than if you're a wide receiver. Like the angle of the ball is just completely different.
Completely different. It's like it's falling out of the sky, man.
Literally, it is.
It is. Well, the nose of the football is very important. The nose of the football, especially in a punt or a pass, it tells you exactly where the ball is going. If the nose is up, Yams, right? Which I'm assuming these punts or these jug machine punts that you were trying to catch, I'm assuming the nose was up. When the nose is up, the read for the returner is the back of the ball, because the nose is up, meaning at its apex, the ball is going to drop, and the back part of the ball is going to direct it where it's going. Okay? Yep. So you see the nose up. You notice at its peak, the nose is still up. You better get the running up. That ball's going to drop.
Oh, yeah.
Because if the nose is up, the back is down. Yeah. That means it's going to drop really, really fast. And when you're catching the football, you want to keep your hands high, right? I know a lot of our YouTubers can see us, but keep your hands high, right? You want to keep your hands as high as possible, because the sight of the human being, we lose the football in the last 6 inches of flight. That is why that picture you showed me of you catching
why are you
the jugs machine, I got to put you on.
That was just for me and you, man.
No, it's all good. That's why that picture you showed me, your eyes were almost closed. Oh. The ball was falling, and your hands were reaching out for the ball. Yeah. Right?
Because it started making this hard turn on you. Like a hard turn on me at the last second.
Again, your hands weren't high. Yeah. You weren't following the back of the ball, so you had no idea where it was going to fall. Now, in contrast to that, again, ball is kicked, nose is up. At its apex, you see the ball turn over. Now the nose turns over to now the nose is down. Now you better back up. That ball's going to carry, right? Because now it's like a pass. Now it turns over, and now it's not going to drop straight down. When it falls, it's going to fall more with an arc and over. So when I was a returner, I saw the nose up at its peak, and I knew it was going to turn over. I sprinted back. Yeah. Because it's easier to catch the ball going forward than catch the ball running backwards. So you just want to put yourself in a better body position so that you don't fumble.
We talked about wide receivers in a previous episode. I know this sounds counterintuitive, but I'm going to say it anyway. Wide receivers, the best guys catch with their hands. Yes. Right? And I think people will say, well, of course they catch with their hands. No. What I mean by that is they literally are only catching with their hands and not their bodies, right? Where the ball's kind of like they're trapping the ball around their chest. What you were just describing to me in my own personal experience, I had no chance of, at the end of the day, even if I had known, like on the third try, every single attempt, there was 3 attempts, every single one I got closer. The third one, it had hit my hands. Like I just couldn't, I think if I had to do it again, I'm a little less, this is like 2014, so I'm definitely a lot older and a little less athletic. But I think knowing where it could have been, I probably could have figured it out. But the ball hit my hands. I wasn't going to catch the ball at the speed and velocity it was going down. Now that I'm hearing you, I think I couldn't have been. I couldn't have caught the ball with my hands. I think I would have needed my body.
You would have needed your body.
Do all punt returners, are they thinking like that? Can you catch a punt with just your hands?
You want to give yourself the best opportunity for something bad not to happen. And so, yes, most of the time they're going to try to catch it with their bodies, right? Because the ball is coming down pretty fast. But if you have your hands high and you know you're a good tracker of the football, in the last 6 inches, you're going to lose it. If it does move a little bit, your instincts and the fact that you're one of the top athletes in the world, that parts of you kick in. There were punts in times in my life where I've caught the football and it's out here. Yeah. But I was in a position to catch it. It's just that now I had to make a last-second adjustment, and obviously it kicks in.
Yeah, those last-second adjustments, that's kind of what did me in. I just didn't quite have it like
it's
that.
All good, Yams.
Yeah.
I saw it one time when the teleprompter went blank, and Yams did a last-minute adjustment. He did the last 20 seconds of the show off the top of the dome. That is what I'm talking about. Yes.
I'm much better in those situations, trust me, than the ones actually out on the field. I dropped his name a little bit earlier in this podcast, Devon Hester, and at least for me, he is still the ultimate. And there's some other great names.
Yeah, I got to interrupt you.
Yeah.
I trained with Devon Hester.
We
came out in the same draft.
Yeah.
We trained with Tom Shaw down there at the Wild World of Sports in Disney in Florida. We were in the same draft class. I remember watching him at Miami, and when we were training, we got a chance to talk and kind of like hang out or whatever. And I'm like, Devon, bro, what's up, man? Like, how did you get? Like, it's like the minute you step on the field for the punt return, the entire stadium stands up.
He's that guy.
You know what I'm saying?
100%.
He's like, bro, you got to understand, Mike, during track season in high school, we might get 15,000 people show up for a track meet. I said, what?
Wow.
He said, yeah, it's a little different in Florida. And so what I started to notice is, man, yeah, the speed is different. The way that they respect speed down there in Florida is a little bit different. And Devon had no fear. All of the greatest returners that I've ever tried to tackle, I've ever had to block for, they had no fear. Not saying that they didn't understand that there may be a couple of hitters on the punt team or the kickoff team or anything like that. But when they caught the ball, they put their foot in the ground and they decided to go forward. There was no fear. There was no doubt that they were going to get past the combat zone, which is, when I say combat zone, that's really usually the 10 or 15-yard zone where all the blocking and stuff happens, right? They were always confident they were going to get through. And the second thing that made Devon Hester ridiculously good, and most returners. You ready for this, Yams?
I'm
ready. This is something that's biological, okay? Dude ain't had no hips.
Oh. Hold on.
Dude ain't had no hips, bruh.
Like, what do you mean by that?
When you tackle somebody, right, and you grab them, a lot of times you're falling off until you meet ass and hips. Hopefully I can say that on this show. Okay? Yeah.
Family show.
It's all good.
Fun. Everyone's got them, yeah.
With Devon, he was straight up and down. Cribbs, straight up and down. Dante Hall, straight up. And they all with, most of these returners have the same physical attributes. You see what I'm saying? And so when you try to tackle them, these guys slip right out of tackles. And then Devon, once he started returning kicks, now all of a sudden he's in the punt team's head. And I remember playing against him as a rookie. I think I played against Devon every single year of my career.
No kidding.
And going out as a punt team, he creates anxiety through the entire
because you know it could happen to you.
Because you know it can happen.
Yeah.
I mean, our special teams coach, Snyder, not Schottenheimer. Snyder, he was with the Seattle Seahawks. I think he's with the San Francisco 49ers right now. We will be on the sideline like, yo, are we kicking it to him? We like, yeah, because it's an ego thing. You damn right we go kick it to Devon Hester, and I'm going to make the tackle. And the minute he catches it, you can feel the energy of the stadium. It's like I'm watching a video game. It's like you can hear a fan start going real fast. It's like the energy turns up, and then all of a sudden I'm running down the middle of the field. He's in front of me. Then all of a sudden I start turning. I'm turning. He's turning the corner, and then all of a sudden you start thinking I'm gonna get cracked back on. Let me start looking, and you start looking, and then he's gone. And he's gone, and it's touchdown, bro. It's some of the weirdest stuff I've ever seen. Patrick Peterson had the same effect.
Yeah.
When he first got in the league and we would kick it to him, I remember telling our coach, hey, bro, don't kick it to Patrick. He's too young and fast. He just is. I remember I had Jeff Ulbrich, who's the defense coordinator for the Jets right now. We were on special teams together. Heath Farwell, we were on special teams together. I think he's the special teams coordinator up there in Buffalo. I remember having conversations with these guys like, bruh, we can't tackle him. These are real conversations on the sideline.
So why? Because we're at home hoping that you kick to him, right? Now, this is the first time I've ever heard it articulated. Why are you even bothering kicking to these guys?
Well, because, again, you get a guy like Real Mike Robb, who I was a special teamer, Pro Bowler, all of those things. Yeah. You talk your special teams coach into making some stupid decisions. But hey, coach, we can do it.
But that's what the coach is for.
He's one of the best punters. Andy Lee is still punting, I think. I think he punts for the Arizona Cardinals right now. Okay? Yes. One of the best punters in the league. We can pin him to the side. We worked on this all week. We pinned him 2 yards from the sideline. He's going to catch it. Then we can corral him. Make sure our backside wing stays in his lane because he's going to show up. Guess what? Backside wing thinks he can make the tackle, gives up the edge. Devon Hester scores another touch. Percy Harvin was elite at that too.
Yeah. Well, look, not to make this.
Man,
no. I love it.
Good players, man.
Just for some of our fans who might not be as familiar with Devon Hester, just a couple things I'll throw out your way. 4-time Pro Bowler. I'm looking at some of my notes. 14 career punt return touchdowns. That is the most in NFL history. He had 4 of them in 2007. That ties for the most in a season in NFL history. Can you imagine having 4 of those in a season?
They are who we thought they were.
Oh,
that's the Denny Green game. Denny Green was like, we gave it to him. I shouldn't have kicked it to Devon Hester. Why did I listen to Mike Robb, my special teams captain? That's probably what should have said.
Yeah.
Yes.
He didn't drop that on you, but we did get a memorable soundbite. The other 2 leaders on the most punt return yards gain in a career in NFL history, Brian Mitchell, nearly 5,000, 4,999. Dave Meggett, I remember him just balling out with the Giants back in the day. 3,708 yards, and then Hester just behind him, 3,695.
Brian Mitchell, Dave Meggett, they came from a generation or the end of the running back generation, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this game for so long ran through the backs.
No doubt.
I mean, we had fullbacks scoring touchdowns. I think Franco Harris, who just passed out too long ago, I think his official position was fullback or something like that at some point in his career. So those guys, Dave Meggett, Brian Mitchell, they were toward the end, the back half of offenses being dominated and teams being dominated by the running back. And it's because, again, just think about it, Yams. They got great hands. When they get the ball in their hands, they're a tough person to bring down to the ground. And I think when you look from a return standpoint, that's what guys were looking for back in the day.
If you do like running backs and you want to hear about the decline of that position, we just did an episode on that one.
Don't say decline. The reevaluation of the running back position.
You can frame it however you want.
These boy wonder offensive coordinators think they want to throw the ball all over the place.
Yeah.
Running backs, man, let's go.
Okay, well, you be the judge of it, and you can decide.
Take a listen to decline, guys.
One of our
King Henry. I ain't say that. No,
I wouldn't say that to his face, and I wouldn't say it about him. How about that? I'll double down. No decline in the King. There have been, by the way, some real changes to punt returns over the years in order to increase a little bit of action and tempo, including restrictions placed on members of the punt team in order to open up return possibilities. Give you an example. 1974, the NFL barred all offensive players except for the 2 farthest from the ball. Those are the gunners that M-Rob made reference to, from crossing the line of scrimmage until the ball was punted. Then in 1979, players on the punt return team were barred from blocking below the waist for safety reasons, which is definitely a huge one.
I could not imagine running down there on the punt team and having to guard against a low block.
Hell no. Hell no. Ask Kayvon Thibodeau about that. Even the changes that were made to open up the punt return game, the average yards on punt returns steadily decreased from 2011 to 19 before increasing the past couple seasons. Just for context purposes, 2010 punt return average yards per return, 9.6. Let's fast forward to 2019, all the way down to 7.6. And then once again, over the last 3 seasons, there's been an increase, 8.8, 8.8, and then this season we're sitting at 9. The player who actually holds the record for the highest average punt return yardage is Chicago Bear, George McAfee, who played 1940 to 41 and then 45 to 50.
Man, for real?
Yeah. You surprised by that?
I mean, I'm a little surprised. I always, and again, I know some of our legends players will get upset with me for saying this. I just wondered about the competition back in the days, right? Like, to average almost 13 yards a punt return, but who are you going against?
Yeah. Well, there's something. Look, the game clearly has changed here. And by the way, for any fan who's listening to this show, and you go, what do you mean 1940 to 41 and then 45 to 50? There was a little thing called World War II.
Yeah.
So just keep in mind, we had pro athletes. I mean, this happened in baseball. Ted Williams, like you hear about these guys that were at the peak of their superpowers. I'll use a word that you use. And yet here it is, peace out. And look, a different time, a different era for really in the world, but certainly when it comes to athletes and what they were doing for our country. But the NFL record is close to 13 yards. That's 4 above the current average. How much does having that explosive guy change what you do on the sidelines from a mental standpoint, but in actuality, once you hit the field? What does it do for a team?
First of all, you just heard what I said about when we were playing against Devon Hester or Patrick Peterson and those guys. Just the conversations that myself and the other special teamers had on the sideline about, okay, do we kick it to him, whatever. So now it's like, okay, so we're not going to kick the Devon Hester. So now it's about, okay, punter, how can you make this the furthest punch you possibly can make it, but not put it in bounds? But you know what I'm saying? So now it's coming down to be real technical and real exact about whatever. And so, and that influences, calls defensive and offensive coordinators can make based on field position. Let's not make any qualms about it. This game, guys, is about field position and gap control. This game is about field position and gap control. And I think Bill Belichick is one of the ones who does it the most. Most people lose games. There's not a lot of people that win games. And if you just play the field position, hey, if it's 4th down, you can't get it, punt it. If you can average 45 to 50 yards, that is a flip of the field. And again, it influences what your offense and defensive coordinators are going to call. It influences packages from personnel standpoint, which ultimately influences who's active on game day rosters.
All right, it is my second favorite thing that we do in this show.
Okay.
You know what it is?
What's that?
Just tell people. We're the DMs, man.
Okay, there you go.
Now, all right.
Don't. DM.
Yeah, you DM me. By the way, they actually have been coming fast and furious. Like there is something to consistency and constantly promoting things. So if you have a question for the NFL Explained crew and you want us to answer that question for you, send me the note. Legitimately, you're on the thread. I say this every damn episode.
I'm on the thread. He actually, takes a screenshot. He actually puts it on the thread. But honestly, guys, it's good for me too because, I'm an analyst. I've forgotten more football than a lot of people know. And at the end of the day, sometimes I gloss over stuff just thinking everybody understands what I'm talking about. Yeah. So the questions are just a good reminder that not everybody understands it at the level that we do. And it just gives us a chance to break some things down.
No, you use we. You know how many times I've seen the question? I'm like, that is like the best question ever. And I hit them back and I'm like, that's an awesome one. We'll get it in. And and there's been a few of these times where I've said, I've asked the same exact question. I promise we'll work this into one of those mailbag episodes. So keep the questions coming. We really do appreciate it. But we are talking about the art of the punt return. Emrob did a great job explaining some of the fundamentals around those situations, technique, philosophies, schematically what we see on the field. What we want to do, though, is start talking about some of the records and some of the individuals who actually execute what Emrob was talking about. So the team actually with the most punt return touchdowns in the season, 1959. Wow. The Chicago Cardinals. Yes, you heard me right. Chicago. The only team in NFL history to have 5 punt return touchdowns in a single season. By the way, I said that Devon Hester tied the record 4 in one season. How about this? The record for a whole year, Chicago Cardinals in 1959.
That's crazy. And to also see that the Arizona Cardinals in 2011, I think that's the Patrick Peterson time when he was there, was a part of that again. Again, when you have these exciting returners, man, it just affects so many different aspects of your football team.
4 players that have scored 4 punt returns for a touchdown in a season in NFL history. 4 total. Check this out. Peterson, who you made reference to, good call. That was that 2011 team. He had 4 by himself. Devon Hester, 2007 with the Bears. He had 4. 1976. Rick Upchurch had the 4. And then in 1951 from Detroit, Jack Christensen also with 4. I'm almost surprised that we haven't had.
I am surprised.
Right? Over the last few years or so, like one dude who.
Well, especially with the type of athletes that we have like today. But I also think when you think about Hester and, when Patrick Peterson was coming along, that's when Hester was kind of on his way out. I just think that you had organizations embrace special teams.
Yeah.
I mean, just throughout history, you just don't see teams embracing. And when you think of special teams, you think about kicker, snapper, holder. You don't necessarily think returner or the personal protector or, some of the different things that your punter can do. So, yeah, it's pretty cool. I just think in that aspect or that time in football history, teams embrace special teams.
Guy breaks off a big return for a touchdown in the punt game. What's it like on the sideline?
Is this against us or
give me both?
Punt return.
Let's start with the positive.
Positive. So punt return, we blocked for a good punt return, whatever. A lot of excitement on the sideline. I'm not going to lie, from a special teamer standpoint, I'm thinking, okay, did I block my guy? Did I get full points in the special team point system? Okay, did I get pluses? I ain't get no negatives on this. We all got a game change in place, so that's extra points. Because, I know in Seattle, we had like top hawk of the week. You know what I'm saying? And like a point system we would get, and then we'd have top hawk of the year. Out of my 4 years, I got it 2 years. He Farwell got it 2 years, too. We kind of used to go back and forth.
Badge of honor. I like it.
It's a badge of honor. I got shirts and everything for it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But I would always think about the point system, number one. Yeah. And can I be honest with you?
Yeah.
I would think, get your win together, you got kickoff.
Yeah, obviously you were an offensive guy, but was there a player that stood out to you that was sort of that energizer buddy? No matter what happened, they were like just bouncing up, ready to go?
Oh, usually defensive backs are like that. Defensive backs and wide receivers, they're the same person.
Sure.
Except one can catch and one can't.
Yeah.
The great defensive backs like defense more than offense, and they can catch. So they could have played wide receiver. Like Richard Sherman played wide receiver, but he loves defense. So he's like, I'm going to take my special skill set in wide receiver and play defense, and that makes you special. So, at the end of the day, that's what it's all about.
Yeah. All right. One other note, by the way, on Devon Hester. I feel like there's like a lot of homage that we are paying him, and rightfully so.
He's one of the best all time.
Hester actually holds the career record for punt return touchdowns with 14. That's actually 4 more than the next guy on the list. Eric Metcalf is that guy with 10. We made reference to Brian Mitchell earlier in the podcast. He has 9. But M-Rob, in the mid-2000s, punts were actually returned nearly 50% of the time. That's dropped to a low of 40% in recent years, which makes the record for the most punt returns for a touchdown in a career ridiculously impressive. Mitchell, whose number we gave before with 9, he's returned 100 more punts than any other player in NFL history. More opportunity. Isn't that wild?
That
like
is
100
crazy.
More chances to get into the end zone.
That is pretty crazy, man. And again, the more chances you get, the more opportunities you get for an explosive play and explosive touchdowns. But, man, Brian Mitchell was a dog, man.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that in a good way. He was a dog, man. When he gets the ball in his hands, he was tough to bring down.
Yeah, you want dogs on your team. Danny Reese, by the way, holds the record for the most punt returns in a season in NFL history. 1979, 70 of them.
Wow.
Wild to me. Dexter McCluster, by the way, in 2013, the most recent with 58 punt returns in a season. How does a player actually, you mentioned special teams, right? Like, how does a player just go and say, you know what, this is going to be my career. I'm going to be special teams dude?
Well, I do USFL games. The MVP of that league, Cavante Turpin, ended up getting an opportunity with the Dallas Cowboys as a return guy.
Been a monster.
And he has been a monster. What happened was he developed a reputation. His speed jumps off the tape, and I think he's going to be in the National Football League for a while now. I mean, he's a real weapon. I think you at least got to have the threat of getting touchdowns almost every single time you touch the ball. I think you have to have opposing special team coaches have to put you up on the big board on Monday when you first start your game plan, and then everybody has to worry about you. Again, I played with Allen Rossum. I played against Allen Rossum, and I played and I blocked for Allen Rossum. When you played against him, yes, you knew Monday you was going to have a problem. Dude was a track star and he could run through tackles. Leon Washington, same type of dude. Percy Harvin, same type of dude. And obviously we talked about Devon Hester, Patrick Peterson, and those guys. I just think that there's an energy that these guys bring to a team. And yeah, as the numbers bear out, they don't score a lot of points. They don't score all the time.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if you can flip field position, if you can average getting that 10 to 15 yards every single time you get a return, that's a first down. That was one of our goals as a special teams group. Retain the football, have the possession, get a first down the minute you get the football, get those 10 yards, turn good into bad. Turn bad into good.
What's crazy about this is I said the record for Hester in a single season was 4.
Mm-hmm.
I guess subconsciously I knew it wasn't a bigger number than that. But if I think back to that era and watching him that season, you would have thought it was happening like every game.
Because it was anticipated,
right?
Yeah,
like,
you got ready for it, and again,
it's the vibe around.
Yeah, Denny Green, the whole press conference, man. We thought they were. Yeah. I don't know why you kicked it to him.
Yeah, exactly. Because there was an M-Rob out there going, Coach, we got him. He's not that fast. This actually surprised me going through the notes here. There's only been one punt return in NFL history that's gone for 100-plus yards. You would have thought that it was higher. Robert Bailey in 94, 103-yard return. Patrick Peterson, by the way, who's we've loved up, he had a 99-yarder, so he was knocking on the door there. And just a little side note, I know the Super Bowl is right around the corner here. It has never happened, a punt return for a touchdown in a Super Bowl. So I know that can't be one of your favorite memories because it hasn't happened yet. At some point it will. That dude might be your Super Bowl MVP when it does happen. Yeah. By the way, is there one that stands out to you when you were either player on the sideline, when you were a kid watching the games? Like, is there that one iconic moment for you?
Iconic moment? I don't know if it's an iconic moment. I mean, obviously we remember, Desmond Howard. He got a Super Bowl MVP. The big one that we talked about, that was a kickoff, I think. You know what I mean? But he did have 90 return yards in the punt return game. I mean, in the punt return game in that Super Bowl, and he won MVP. Obviously, we talked about Patrick Peterson, Devon Hester, Dante Hall.
Yeah.
I think we ought to give him a little bit of some credit too. I forget what year it was, and I don't even know if I was in the league when it happened. I think he was playing the Denver Broncos. He did some spinning around, and it was in the flat. He caught the ball. He spent like 3-4 times. I interviewed him about it a few years ago, and he said that play was when he knew he could make a career out of being a returner. It was like the minute he got to the sideline, everybody was like, dude, we got to get you the ball. So that's when he knew he had found this place. But this game has had some really, really unique returners in its history. I played against a lot of them. Again, Joshua Cribbs, we still have, we haven't talked about in guys like that. But these guys are unique. These guys have no fear, and they take returns very seriously. I mean, again, a guy like Leon Washington, dude just dreamed about returning the ball. I mean, he was one of my best friends on the team. So, yeah, man, big time influence on teams.
It's funny. I'm looking at Dante Hall and his success. He was a 2-time Pro Bowler. He has got 6 career punt returns for a touchdown. That's the ninth most in NFL history. 5 punt returns for a touchdown in 7 years with Kansas City. By the way, just in case you're wondering, yes, of course.
What about that Deshaun Jackson one against against the Giants? He played for Philly.
Oh, dude.
When they kicked it, he kind of walked around. That was so dope. No. When I remember seeing that, I said, dude, it was the personal protector. I was like, dude, because, as a personal protector, when you're going to punt, you got to be the one right over the football, man. And if he cuts back, that's your tackle.
One of the things that I do remember was Coughlin just going berserk.
Yeah. Because he probably said we shouldn't kick it to him, and he got talked into allowing it to happen. Yeah. And he was probably wanting to punch himself for kicking it to him.
He was going nuts on Matt Dodge, who was the punter. I do vividly remember, and Tom had that glow about him, and when it got cold, like his whole face would be red, and it was just kind of comical. But I remember, like he was blowing a gasket out on the football field. Most fired up coach, and we'll get back to some of these players here, but I'm talking about Coughlin. Like most of the time, the special teams guys, they're like another breed of human being, man. Like they go nuts.
They have to be. You got to think, Yams. Like they probably get 30 minutes of meeting time a day.
Yeah.
For all of the many things that they have to, deal with and accomplish. Oh, and on practice, they probably get 20 minutes during the day. Mondays, you're still dealing with the week before. Tuesdays, you're off. Wednesdays, usually they do punt and kickoff return. Thursdays, we would do punt. Punt is something you do every single day. And kickoff, Fridays, we would do all of them. Punt, kickoff, return, kickoff, and punt return. And then Saturday, you do all of them with your specials and a walkthrough. So, yeah, man, you got to manage a lot in a little bit of time. And if you mess up, you're the blame.
Yeah, you are. I got one more for you, only because when I was going through the notes last night, I actually went to YouTube just to watch this one specific return. Growing up, Prime was Prime. I mean, we're about the same age.
Prime.
You got to be kidding me. Deion Sanders Go to YouTube if you don't know the play.
He returned to get some linebackers too. I'll be getting that Prime about that too. Like Prime, man, you act like you had other guys that were fast out there with you. But and is the credit though? I mean, to be a defensive player and be able to handle the football and be as fast as he was, and then show off while he was doing it. Oh,
1989. It's a week 1 game. What's fascinating about it is he initially drops the football. Can you imagine? You return. Can you imagine dropping the football, picking it up? I mean, think about how quick everything in the league goes. Like that split second, and it's actually not a split second. By the time you drop and pick up, that's probably like a full second and maybe fractions of a second on top of that.
That's 7 yards of coverage. If you drop the ball, the coverage team gains 7 yards of coverage. And that's what they tell us as a returner. So don't drop it.
Yeah.
You want to get a start on that. You know what I mean? They're going to be up on you. And again, for Prime to drop it and have the wherewithal to still, that's all the confidence in his speed. Because if I would have dropped it, I would have had some anxiety and I might have just went to the ground. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But not Prime.
Yeah, just cover up.
Yeah, not Prime.
No, just unbelievable. I do encourage people to go and check out some of that video. It really was amazing. But a ton of fun. I actually, when I heard it, I was like, oh, this will be cool. I didn't think we'd go this long on this. This
is my wheelhouse, man.
No.
Teamer, man.
Kind of like digging deep on this. I hope everyone enjoyed this episode. The art of the punt return explained.